They said she was cursed. The whispers began as soon as her third child came into the world, another daughter with fragile fingers and a cry too soft to carry past the walls of their lodge. Her husband's face had fallen, his shoulders heavy with the weight of unspoken disappointment. And when no son came, when season after season passed without the promise of a boy to carry on his name, the whispers grew sharper, crueler, and impossible to ignore. By the time her husband's mother spat the words aloud, "She brings only weakness. She is cursed," the village no longer looked at her as one of their own. They cast her out, stripped of kinship, left with nothing but her girls clinging to her skirts and the echo of rejection in her ears. But the wilderness has a way of either breaking a person or forcing them to discover strength they never knew existed. Alone beneath endless skies, she built small fires with trembling hands, taught her daughters how to gather roots, how to listen for the rustle of rabbits in the grass, how to pray not to the judgment of others but to the earth itself. At night she cried quietly so they wouldn't hear. But the stars bore witness to her loneliness, her fear, and her stubborn refusal to let despair consume her. And then came the day when everything she had fought to preserve nearly slipped through her fingers. A shadow moved through the trees, silent yet sharp as a blade. It was not hunger or cold that came for her this time, it was vengeance. A Modoc warrior, scarred by battles and fueled by hatred, had tracked her. She had been told in whispers around campfires that the Modoc carried grudges like firebrands, that their fury burned long after the world forgot the reason. She did not know why he came for her, only that his eyes were filled with something deeper than anger, something that looked too much like pain. If you believe in kindness, forgiveness, and second chances, take a moment right now to like, comment, share, and subscribe to The Gentle Truth. It helps us bring you more heart-touching stories that remind us of the humanity we all share. The warrior's arrival was not with the silent swiftness of death, but with the weight of a vow. He cornered her by the river where her daughters played, the air heavy with dread. She braced herself for the end, for his weapon to strike, but instead he spoke words that froze her heart more than any blade. He vowed that she would not be left to wander forgotten and despised. He vowed that her exile would not be her grave. His voice was rough, carrying the bitterness of old wounds. Yet beneath it flickered something she had not expected. Recognition. For he too had been cast out once, not for bearing daughters, but for questioning leaders, for refusing to follow a path of blood that felt more curse than honor. His own people had marked him, abandoned him, declared him less than worthy. The vengeance that brought him here was not for her. It was for the cruelty of those who condemned without mercy. And in her he saw his own reflection, a soul bruised by rejection but unbroken, clinging to love as the only weapon left. The days that followed tested them both. He remained at a distance at first, keeping watch as though tethered by a vow he could not undo. At night she saw the faint glow of his fire across the valley, a reminder that she was not as alone as she had believed. Slowly, necessity drew them closer. He brought meat when the hunt went well. She shared her gathered roots and the laughter of children who had not yet learned to fear him. Her daughters, unscarred by the weight of prejudice, saw only a man who protected them from wolves and told stories beneath the moon. Trust, once broken by betrayal, does not mend easily. She wrestled with doubt, with the memory of the village's scorn and the fear of depending on another only to be cast aside again. But each time she looked into the warrior's eyes, she saw not pity but solidarity, as though the earth itself had woven their broken paths into one shared road. Slowly, she began to believe that perhaps she was not cursed, that perhaps survival itself was proof of blessing. The world around them remained harsh. Storms lashed against their makeshift shelter, food grew scarce in lean months, and danger lurked in the form of raiders and wild beasts. But each trial bound them tighter, weaving together two outcasts into something resembling family. Her daughters began to call him uncle, and though he never said the words aloud, his hands, calloused from years of war, trembled gently when they slipped their small fingers into his. It was not long before whispers reached the ears of her old village. They heard that she had not only survived, but thrived, that the woman they had marked as cursed now walked with a protector feared across the plains. Some came to see if the rumors were true, expecting to find her weak, broken, desperate for forgiveness. Instead, they found her standing tall, her daughters strong and unafraid, a Modoc warrior at her side whose presence alone silenced their contempt. In that moment, she realized the power of endurance, the quiet vengeance of simply surviving when others wished you gone. She did not need their acceptance anymore, nor did she crave their approval. She had carved a new life from exile, a life stitched with resilience, love, and unexpected kinship. The warrior's vow, born of anger, transformed into something gentler, stronger, and more enduring. He had once promised that she would not die forgotten. Instead, he helped her live remembered, not by the village that cast her out, but by the daughters who grew into women under the shelter of his watch, by the love that bloomed where only ashes had been. And though the world continued to be cruel in many ways, their story stood as proof that being cast out is not the end. Sometimes it is the beginning of a road no one else can see, a road that leads not to ruin but to redemption. If this story touched your heart, please like, comment, share, and subscribe to The Gentle Truth. Your support helps us keep bringing you stories of courage, kindness, and second chances. And before you go, please drop a comment below. Tell us what part of this story moved you the most. Your voice keeps these stories alive.